What's up guys, ECREWVP back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to unbox and assemble the E-STRAPZ SB Storm, and I'm going to go over some of its specs. Before we jump into the unboxing, 3 things I highly recommend you getting before we start is a power drill, some clippers, and a bike stand, and you'll see why in a second. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of all this saran wrap. Next, we're going to get rid of all of these straps. Okay, so the next step is pretty simple. Now that we removed all the straps, we can simply just remove the top box and reveal the bike underneath. Now you'll see why I recommended a power drill. Towards the bottom of the box, there are several screws holding this crate down to the pallet underneath. And all you have to do is unscrew them and lift it right off. Before we move forward to the next step, make sure you've collected all the screws off the ground. There should be a total of 12. And since we saved this box, we can use this as the garbage can. Unless you have a bin nearby, you just dump all your trash in here. Before we remove the crate from the pallet, we want to first remove all the tools and parts that are connected to it. Now that we have everything removed, we can now see the bike. The next step is to remove all the parts and tool bags and set them to the side. And here you can see everything we have removed from the box. Here is our number plate. Here will be our mirrors. Here are some zip ties. I believe this is the rear light, the rear fender. This is a bag of some tools along with a link to the manual. Here's the fork guards and handlebar clamps and some extra foam spacers, front fender, and our beefy 15 amp continuous charger. You guys have waited long enough. It's time to reveal the bike. The steps I'm going to put everything together is first I'm going to do the handlebars, then the rear shock, then the front wheel. To mount the handlebars, we're going to first need to get our handlebar clamps. On the bottom you have this little rail. All you have to do is take it over to the clip, put it on the rail, slide all the way backwards till you have a click. There you go. And now it's locked in place. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mount the display and the front light. So what we need to do first is remove the screw. So this is the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smart display, and right now it has this bubble effect because it has the screen protector on it. To mount this, first thing we're going to do is we're going to just remember these brackets go on this side. You're going to position this in place, and then you're going to get the front light. Make sure that you angle the front light down as much as possible so that you can access the mounting bracket in the back. Now that the handlebars, the display, and our front light are all mounted to the bike, we're going to move to the rear shock. I'm going to remove the zip tie holding on the seat to the rear wheel. To get the shock to drop down, just lift up the rear seat. There we go. Now you can remove the foam and get started mounting. So to put on the rear shock, this is the only step where I really recommend having a second pair of hands. One person should lift up the rear seat while the other person lines up the bolt and the spacers. A little higher. Now here, it's kind of hard to get the final set of spacers in there, so I would actually recommend catching them with an Allen key, like that, and then pushing this screw the rest of the way through. Raise up a little bit, like that. Now that the bike is fully removed from the pallet, I'm going to put this bike stand underneath so that we can put the front wheel on. After you get the bike on the stand, I would recommend to have someone also hold down the rear end of the bike so that it doesn't fall over. To put on the front wheel, first we're going to have to remove these two spacers off of the spokes. Now, while looking at the two spacers that we removed off of the front wheel, you'll notice that one is shorter than the other. The short spacer goes on the side with the brake rotor, and the long spacer goes on the opposite side. Now, if you're having an issue where the axle won't go through, remember that there is also a spacer in the middle of the hub, so if it's not perfectly lined up, the axle won't go through. An easy way I found to make sure that it's straight is to get an Allen key and kind of just push it down or up, and once it's straight, you can put the axle through, like so. Now we're gonna get the bigger spacer put on the opposite side, and now we'll just knock the axle the rest of the way through. All right, you can drop the wheel down. Perfect. Next, we're gonna put on the front brake. We're gonna take off this foam, and here we have the Emoto front brake, and this is the same one that's also in the rear. It's a dual piston Emoto brake, and you can see how thick and how big the pads are. To get this spacer out, you usually can't just pull it out because it's really in there. And that's because if you come up to the handlebars, there is a spacer that's holding from being compressed. So you're gonna pull this down, you're gonna pull the spacer out. Now give this a few pumps. That should release it. And now you can come down here to the front brake, and now you should be able to just pull it out. When mounting the front brake, you want to remember exactly how many spacers you have so that you don't lose any. So what you want to do is you want to get the screws that we just removed and you pull the small spacers and put them on, just so it's easier. And then I'd follow up with the big spacer. And I do the same thing for the other side as well. When mounting your fork guards, you're gonna have these cool spacers that fit perfectly in this hole. And once you get them set in place, it's gonna hold it and get that also set onto the fork itself. And you'll just get the screw, go behind it, and start screwing them in. To mount the front fender, we're gonna put this washer right here, put the screw underneath, flip it over, put it through the forks. So make sure you put the horn up and through the forks and then flip it over. Once you get the screw in place, you can just tighten it. That's pretty good. Before you put on your turn signals, you want to put on your rear fender and your rear light. So the rear fender will slide all the way back. You can line that up with the turn signal screws. And then you're going to get your rear light. And you're going to put this underneath as well. And after you have the rear light and the fender mounted, now we can go behind and tighten on our turn signals. Underneath the seat we have two connectors, one from the turn signals and one from the rear light. What we're gonna do to route them is we have these brackets to hold all of our wires. We're gonna get the turn signals, the rear light, we're gonna put them in there, we're gonna close this up. And then we're gonna come back here. You're gonna take the male connector, plug this one into the female connector. And you're gonna do the same thing, but this one's gonna be female connector to a male connector. Now we're on the final stretch. Now the only thing you have to do is put the battery inside, plug it up with an easy 3 connectors, and then we're gonna turn the bike on. Make sure you have the proper right and left turn signals. Do that and we're fully done. Inside the bike we have 3 main connectors that we have to note. So here is what the battery will connect to. This is a QS10 connector which uses bullet pins. This is fantastic for high performance applications, and the bullet pins are great for handling bumps and rough terrain. This yellow connector is for our charge port, and this is what will also plug up into the battery. This connector is for the communication, so this is how the controller will communicate with the battery. And this is the battery. This is the 72 volt, 75 amp hour battery that has 200 amps of continuous power. And as you can see here, it also has the QS10 connector, and here's the charge port, and then here is the communication cable. As you saw, we can remove the side panel to access and remove the battery. So in case you wanted to charge the battery outside of the bike, you can also connect this adapter so you can charge it anywhere you would like. But to charge the bike normally, there's a charge port on the right side. To get the battery in, we have to first remove this bracket that holds it in place, and then when we get the battery in, we'll put it back and tighten it down. Grab the battery by the handle, lift it up, put your hand underneath to secure it. Just rest it in place. Move these wires out the way. And slide it in. Now the battery, these are live, so please be very careful once you remove the cover. And these are anti-spark connectors, so you should be okay without wearing gloves. But if you do want to be extra safe, you can put on some rubber gloves as well. But anti-spark connectors, very high quality, you shouldn't have any issues. Once you get this done, you can just put this inside. Next, we're going to connect the communication cables. Easy peasy. And next, we're going to connect, oops, still have this adapter. Next, we're going to connect the charge port. Now, as you saw, there's a few connectors that will be loosely able to bounce around in there. So you do have a big bag of foam padding, so if you want to add any padding where you'd like to get rid of any noise or bouncing around, you can do that. So now we're going to put the bracket back on that holds the battery in place and slide it in here. Alright, so since we got the battery installed, I can turn on the turn signal, and I can see that this is indeed the left turn signal. So now I can turn the bike off, and now I will mount it onto the fork. So this spot right here is where it'll mount, and the first thing you want to do is just get this nut removed, slide it down. Now you want to get a wrench and your Allen key. You're going to take your turn signal, route it through the front middle of the forks, and put the clamp right here. Now you're going to take the other half of the clamp, you're going to go in the last hole right here, start closing it up. Now you're going to grab the nut you just removed, and you're going to put it right here. So now that the turn signal is mounted, you can slide it to the exact spot you want. You're going to grab your turn signal, and you're going to slide it all the way in, get the nut as well, and you're going to tighten it down. And you're going to repeat the same steps for the other side. Now the bike is really coming together. The last thing to put on is the number plate. So first, I'm going to get a zip tie, slide it down in this hole. Make sure this is pulled out at the